I remember being so bored in school that I used to wish that a zombie apocalypse would happen. And I know I'm not alone on this, okay? I think a lot of us were in some desperate need of some excitement. I used to talk about it with my friends all the time. Like, where are we gonna hide out? Like, are we gonna go up to the mountains? Are we gonna break into that mansion? Are we gonna live on a boat? And what kind of weapons are you gonna use? Are you gonna use a classic wooden baseball bat, or are you gonna switch it out for a metal one so it doesn't sting your hands every time you hit something? And who are you gonna be with? I would assume your family, but maybe you wanna convince them to go over to your friend's house whose dad has a bunch of guns in his closet for some reason. Or you could be like me in middle school who was like, psh, I'm gonna take off alone and go protect my crush who lives in a neighborhood across from us. That way she'll finally realize how much I care about her and that I exist. Looking back on that dream scenario, it's so insane now to think about her parents just boarding up the house. All of a sudden the door swings open. Oh, thank God, 12-year-old 80-pound Jack Sather is here to save our daughter. She's in the back. But what would you do if the zombie apocalypse happened right now? That is the question that Project Zomboid lets you play out. And I think it does an amazing job. This game came out 11 years ago in early access in 2013, which makes me think that a lot of you have probably actually seen it or at least heard about it, but maybe not given it a try. I hesitated giving it a try because by its art style, I thought it was some like boring, isometric, turn-based Sims-like zombie game. But then I was shocked when I found out that you control your character with WASD. No joke, that's the main reason I gave the game a shot. And now I've put over 140 hours into the game, which is nothing compared to some of the other players out there. Like, I'm not a Project Zomboid pro, I've barely modded the game, but I can confidently say with just the vanilla experience alone, I think it's the best zombie game I've ever played. This game, this little, unsuspecting, low-poly indie game has beat out all the other flashy, open-world zombie games, like Dead Island, Dying Light, Dead Rising, and a bunch of other games that have the word dead in them. This beats them all, in my opinion. There are some games that I thought were gonna do what Zomboid does. Like, do you remember the original Dead Island trailer? Number one, how amazing was that trailer? I mean, like, the music and the freaking edits. Ugh. But number two, why was that game nothing like what they showed in the trailer? Like, I still like the game, but this story with like the dad, this could have been The Last of Us before The Last of Us. But instead we get stuck with who do you voodoo, bitch? And a bunch of other completely forgettable characters. By the way, random side tangent, I also just recently bought Dead Island 2, and in that game it's even worse. They try to do like this like meta comedic thing about zombie apocalypse tropes and like famous Hollywood movies and stuff like that. I've never been so annoyed by a game that I had to refund it in less than an hour. I'm also surprised with how many games that just like over-complexify the zombie threat. Like, they have to add in like super zombies and a super intricate crafting system where you can make like an electrified buzzsaw. Like, you guys do realize that an axe can one-shot pretty much any human, right? We don't need these crazy scientific contraptions. And that's what I love about Zomboid. You're not part of some crazy special ops team. You don't have like crazy zombie powers. You're just an average Joe that spawns in the middle of a suburb in Kentucky, and there's a bunch of zombies walking around outside, and you've got power and water for 2 weeks, and the game's just like, after that, good luck. It's so sick. It's so simple.
Beat it, lady.
When you create your character, you also have a choice of adding positive and negative traits that both cost a certain amount of points, and to fresh eyes, it can be a kind of hard thing to balance out. You have to make some hard sacrifices. Unless you play it realistic, which for me, I would just grab clumsy, cowardly, disorganized, feeble, out of shape, underweight, slow learner, restless sleeper, agoraphobic, and slow reader. But I do have this YouTube channel, so I am pretty lucky. And then when you spawn in, you don't necessarily have a concept of how much inventory you have, so you just start grabbing everything. But very quickly, you'll realize how heavy cans of spaghetti bolognese and corned beef can be, which sound like out-of-pocket food items until you start playing the game for like 5 minutes and realize that, no, those are 2 of the main 3 food groups in the game. The inventory constraint makes you really focus on the essentials. So you want your go-to weapon, you want a little bit of food, but you also want some medicine and some bandages. And something that would really help you out is getting a fresh bag. After you have a bag, the next thing you'll want to get is a car. Now, finding cars is really easy. Finding a car that works is hard. Finding a car with gas is borderline impossible.
Okay, we found a car with a key. No way. This car has gas in it. What the hell? I literally say in the video it's impossible to find a car with gas in it, and the first car I check has gas in it.
You're trying to survive. You're trying to find a safe place to hide out and make a base. And then you go out and explore Zomboid's massive world. There are so many maps you'll pick up, whether it is a map of a city, or there's things called annotated maps, which are basically like treasure maps that you find by like previous survivors. And usually when you get there, you get some rad loot. There is a lot of randomization in the game too, so like it does feel really good when you stumble across like a barricaded home, especially if you're in a multiplayer game where you're like, am I the first one to get this? At the same time, there's usually a price to pay to get into those houses. You have to make noise breaking down the barricade, and usually there's a bunch of zombies inside the barricaded home, but usually it's worth it.
Baseball bat, I mean, come on, baby.
There's also random events that will happen in the game, like kind of like Fallout weird wasteland stuff. Like, I'm sure a lot of you have stumbled into a house where like 2 people were naked, like in the middle of doing it, and then became zombies.
Get away from me, pervert.
But But I've also ran into Jason Voorhees in the middle of like a campsite where he just recently killed 2 people and became a zombie himself, and I killed them all and stole his hockey mask. Beam has also said that he found the raccoon mascot just walking around. I guess a guy in like a furry suit of it? I also ran into a scene that it must be from a movie or something, but there was a zombie doctor with a bunch of dead, fully eaten corpses on the ground, and she was like covered in blood, and I was like, what the hell did I just stumble into? Of course, I bashed her head in and then took her doctor's outfit. Hey, just gotta interrupt the video real quick. Same guy, less blood. Just gotta do a sponsor real quick that's not in direct contradiction to the entire point of the video. Yeah, I got put into a world of trouble in the comments. Thanks for that. It was an oversight on my end. My bad, boys. Project Zomboid was made by a small team of game developers and programmers, and a lot of you might know that I just recently started my journey into learning code, but one of the toughest parts about it is it can be a little boring, and that's what boot.dev is here to solve. It provides a fun and engaging way to learn back-end web development languages like Python and Go from start to finish by gamifying it. By the way, Nick, my game dev teammate and coding wizard, he got his start in web development, and his favorite coding language is still Go. And also, I was just recently learning GD script, which always gets compared to Python and its similarities. The smartest way to learn is making sure you're never getting bored and tune out. Boot.dev is online, self-paced, and feels like a captivating RPG. They have a ton of courses to go through where you'll earn XP, levels, achievements, and even complete quests to get your top spot on the global leaderboard. Their goal is to get you writing tons of code, because getting your hands behind the keyboard and actually shipping projects is the real way to learn. And in case you get stuck, because coding can definitely be tricky, they actually have a helpful AI bear bot named Boots that's trained specifically on the courses you're going through that'll help you get unstuck wherever you are. The creators of Boot.dev never want to feel like their students are paying for something that isn't helping them, so they offer free demos of every course, and they offer a 30-day, no questions asked refund policy. So if you want to get started, click on my link in the description and use code JAXAether to get 25% off your first month, or even off the entire first year if you choose the annual plan. Thanks again to Boot.dev. Now, back to talking zombies. Also, the zombies are your classic walkers. Like, they don't sprint unless you add that option into your game if you're, an insane masochist. And you would think that the walker zombies are really easy. Like, one of the reasons I stopped watching The Walking Dead is because in like season 3, I remember the governor is like walking through a street and he's like half dead, super injured, and this zombie comes at him and just like stumbles off of him and like falls over. And I was like, okay, seriously, how is anybody dying to these things anymore? But in Zomboid, it proves that even walking, just a handful of zombies can really mess you up. I have died so many times in this game.
No way. Ow, now! Ow! I'll kill all of you! Lord, save me! Save me! You're kidding me. You're kidding me. No, 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 no! No! Oh my God!
You gotta be so careful with the amount of sound that you make from being seen by any zombies and constantly breaking line of sight. Honestly, it can get pretty annoying how hard it is to shake zombies off your trail. Like, you can be in an urban area and think that you could maze through a bunch of buildings and lose all the zombies, but if you made a loud sound like firing off a gun, zombies will start coming from all different angles and just start clogging up any of your escape routes, and you'll die because of it. And you might think you're safe in like an open field, which for the most part you can be, but sometimes you'll run into like zombies into a forest and just die from exhaustion, which has happened recently to me, and it's one of the worst feelings ever.
Why are there so many zombies in the fucking woods? Am I really gonna die from exhaustion because I've been walking too much? Is that really what's about to happen?
Something I was almost critical of was the combat in Project Zomboid being a little one note, a little too simple. The thing is, it's surprisingly hard to master. There's a lot of subtle timing that you gotta get good at to kill zombies efficiently and safely. Also, you'll quickly realize that shooting feels like impossible. Like, do these guns even work? And the answer is yes, but shotguns are the meta. They'll hit some stuff, but they make a lot of noise. So it's almost like the more that you keep shooting, the more that's just gonna come. And you can raise your aiming so that like revolvers and pistols and rifles don't become useless anymore.
What's the point of these things?
But it takes a long time, and I've never even gotten to a place where like I'm relying on my guns instead of my melee weapons.
These don't do shit.
And I feel like the combat is just like hard to cheese. Like I remember making Molotov cocktails for the first time being like, all I have to do is just run around in a circle while the zombies burn up. Yes, but you also gotta make sure that you're not anywhere near anything that's significant to you or else it might catch on fire as well. I recently just found out you can get the zombie infection from more than just a bite. Beam is the one that told me about this.
Get in there, you bitch.
I've spent 100 hours thinking that was the only way to turn into a zombie. Turns out, scratches have a 7% of zombifying you, lacerations have a 25%, and then yes, when they bite you, when they munch on you, you do have a 100% guarantee of becoming a zombie at some point.
So speedy. Oh! No!
It's a devastating feeling when you check your fresh wound and see that you've been bitten. And you don't die immediately, it can take a couple days. But no matter how leveled your character is, or how much medicine you have, or how many hours you've put in, you're gonna have to say goodbye to your character.
What are you? Whoa. Babe, a zombie's killing you. Really? Yeah. What do I do?
No! You kidding me? No! It's okay, we can live this. Come on. Fuck! Damn penis.
What's cool about Zomboid is it doesn't just leave a grave spot with your gear when you die. Your character raises from the dead right there and becomes one of the zombies to roam the world. And when you create a new character, you have to go find your former self and kill it to get your gear back.
Oh shit, I spawned in the house with him.
Like, you're never safe from a rogue zombie bite. You could be coming around a corner and just bam, it gets you. You could open up a bathroom door, bam, a zombie gets you. You could be going through a freaking window and think you're safe, bam, another zombie gets you. I've died so many times and I never want to lose the unlimited water and power that you get for the first 2 weeks that I end up playing Project Zomboid like a roguelike. Like, every time I die, I just delete the whole world and reset everything. So I get a bunch of random loot in all these different houses every time I play. And technically the game does demand that of you, your eventual death. The game starts with saying, this is how you died. The multiplayer is great. It does make things like reading really hard to get through, which if you read, you get bonus XP for the activity that you're doing. But on the bright side, by default, sleep is taken out of the game, so that's nice not to worry about. A little bit of an editor's note real quick. I used to have a bunch of footage of friggin' all my friends playing multiplayer for a long time. We hid out in the fire department in Rosewood, but for some reason, all of that footage is gone off of one of my drives. I do not know what happened, but you'll probably see a bunch of me just playing alone here. One thing that sucks about multiplayer is finding your friends, especially if you're all new to the game. There is a setting you can turn on to make all of you appear on the map, but it's like setting a number. It's so weird. Beam also showed me this.
Oh, what? Really? Oh, that's amazing.
Back in the day when I was streaming on Twitch, I remember I had one of the coolest streaming moments, which was I set up a server in Zomboid and invited everybody who was watching, which was like 20 people, into the game, and they all joined, and we were all just like running around town and doing our own things and separately surviving together. It was awesome. Now, something that is like The Sims is these little moodles that you'll have in the corner that basically tell you everything that's wrong with your character. So like if you're feeling queasy and don't have an infection on one of your cuts, that means you're turning into a zombie.
Oh.
But all of these moodles like do affect you. Like if you got hit in the arm and you have an injury, it will slow down your attack. If you're exhausted, you are gonna slow down. If you're stuffed and feel great, you'll have more inventory space. I will say there are some aspects of Zomboid I personally haven't gone too deep into. Like I haven't really ever gotten into the base building of the game, and the crafting, there's plenty of things I haven't crafted as far as like weapons go and stuff. Typically I've just found weapons that get the job done, so I don't really worry about it. And just straight up, a lot of survival games turn me off with the amount of crafting that you have to do. What I like about Zomboid is it's almost optional, at least in the beginning of the game. So I'm gonna be honest, I actually haven't experienced a lot of the end game, like farming and stuff like that. But somebody I know has, and that's my YouTube friend Beam Buddy. Beam, can you tell him about the end game? But if you could, keep it under an hour and a half, please.
Sure thing, Jack. As someone with over 800 hours in Zomboid, I have to say that the end game is the best and worst part of the game. After the initial 2 weeks, the power and water shut off, and you go from collecting water from toilets and sinks to having to make elaborate rain collection and filtration systems. Scattered throughout most of the starting area that you'll be in is cans of food and even fresh food like pies. But soon after, you're gonna run out of that food in that area, and you're gonna have to start farming and trapping. And with winter quickly approaching, you better make sure you get to it quickly. Now, while this may sound tedious, tedious, it's actually quite rewarding. Seeing all your systems of food and water collection culminate into a bastion of safety and self-sustainability, eventually you realize that combat is not as important as you originally thought it was. Ammunition becomes less and less important, and you begin to realize that melee combat is your best friend. Sure, having a plentiful supply of shotgun shells is good for burning Louisville down to the ground, but you do not have unlimited ammo. The thing that gets you in Zomboid isn't a lack of preparedness or skill, but rather complacency. Eventually, you'll be walking down the road and just get a little bit lazy and forget to check around a corner, and next thing you know, you're bitten, and your 2,000-hour character is gone in an instant. And just like that, you have to start fresh, back from the beginning. And in my opinion, that's the same exact thing that makes this game so addicting. You go in, you die, you go in, you die, and each time, you just want to get better. How can I progress faster? How can I make a better base? How can I spec my character out better? All of these things are constantly going through your head every time you play the game. But Zomboid isn't without its problems. Of course, as I'm sure Jack would say, the UI is
Horrible UI.
mediocre at best. And if you take a look at the Steam Community Workshop, you can see that 10 out of the top 20 mods are UI mods. And while we're on the topic of mods, I'd like to bring up my favorite one, the RV mod. You get a portable base that you can load up with all your guns and ammunition and drive all around Kentucky with. That is probably the coolest thing. Now, while there's lots of things that could be fixed with Zomboid, it is still an amazing game, and I think that modding can really take it to the next level. Anyway, back to you, Jack.
One big letdown about Project Zomboid is that there are no NPCs in the game. I'm just not in love with the idea of being the only living person left in Kentucky. And don't get mistaken, the devs are still working on the game. There's actually a big update 42 that's coming out soon, hopefully soon. But yeah, I feel like NPC is like villagers in Minecraft. Like what a big update that was. If Project Zomboid got that, whew, that'd be a huge reason for anybody that has left Project Zomboid to immediately come back. Also, we could really use some wildlife, like some deers, squirrels, rabbits going around or something, which I believe is planned. And the biggest thing that needs to be fixed with Project Zomboid is, oh my god, the horrible UI. Especially for anybody on like 2K and 4K resolutions, which I feel like a lot of people have had for years now. Dude, like, I don't blame any new players for being overwhelmed with the game. Like, the tutorial does a really good job, actually, but that tutorial doesn't fix like the tiny little buttons all around the screen. Like, one time I hit this pin button by accident and I thought my game was bugged for hours because it left my inventory constantly open. And for a new player to have to figure that all out, I mean, you can read through the pages of tutorial text, but a lot of people, including me, are not gonna do that. They're just gonna try to figure it out, and that can quickly become overwhelming. Something I think would be really cool is if the Project Zomboid team had something in the bank of like what Risk of Rain 1 to Risk of Rain 2 did, which is taking this old school looking isometric perspective game and turning it into a third person / first person game where all of the mechanics are pretty much the same, but you have a bunch of new items, inventory, weapons, vehicles, and again, breathes new life into this awesome concept of a game. I'm actually surprised that not like AAA games have picked up on how well this game is doing and done it themselves. I really only see it being done in this masterpiece of a little tiny indie game, Project Zomboid. But then I was shocked when I figured out that your controller, oh my gosh, here come the cicadas. And now I've played the, shh. Hey cicadas, shut up please. Shut up. I'm also surprised that so many games like over-complexify the zombie threat. Shut the fuck up! Shut up! Stop! Cicadas, birds, everything is just being so fucking loud. I have to be outside to record this. I promise it's important. It's really not.